Day 4 of the Hunter Biden felony gun trial is underway in a Wilmington, Delaware courthouse today. The Biden family stood steadfastly by the first son as they watched the third day of blistering testimonies from the front row. Hunter's ex-wife and his ex-girlfriend were called to the witness stand, where both gave gut-wrenching accounts of crack pipes being found throughout the Biden's property and about Hunter's incessant drug use. Gordon Cleveland, who sold Hunter the gun and watched him fill out the form, testified too. Hunter's attorney, Abby Lowell, sought to pin culpability on Cleveland as trying to score a sale.
The prosecution is expected to rest their case as early as today. Hallie Biden, widow of Hunter's brother Beau, and with whom Hunter was romantically involved, will take the witness stand Thursday. She is tied to the gun saga for tossing the gun away at a grocery store. Additional witnesses are expected to be called up to testify Thursday, too. Meanwhile, Hunter defense attorney Abby Lowell said the first witness for the defense could come Friday morning. Niall, this is a mess.
Where to begin, right? I mean, I think in the interest of transparency, we should say you and I were both like, what do we actually say about this?
The cast of characters involved in
cast of characters involved, the kind of griminess of some of the details, the facts of crack addiction, which are never pretty. That does not mean that crack addicts don't deserve compassion. Clearly they do. It's a very difficult problem to be grappling with. The issue of the legality seems one of the most clear-cut here, because it does seem very hard to argue that Hunter Biden did not break the law. He does appear to have been an addict when he signed a form saying that he was not. I mean, I guess one place we could perhaps start is, where do you think this is landing with Americans who are not either passionately pro-Trump or pro-Biden?
I think most Americans are looking at this and they are detecting where there is hypocrisy coming from either side's messaging. We were talking already today about the issue of President Biden's age and Trump's age. There's hypocrisy there. There's a little bit of a lack of clarity about the fact that we're dealing with two very old candidates who have had blunders. The same goes with law and order. And while Donald Trump is working his way through the 34 charges that have been levied against him, and he is now a convicted felon for those things, you're going to then be looking to the other side, Biden's team, and going, are our hands clean when we're talking about the rule of law and justice coming for all and being blind? And I think most people will go, this Hunter Biden guy is getting one opportunity after another to get off the hook. Yeah, we'll see if that happens.
So I've complicated feelings about that one. I mean, the obvious rebuttal from Democrats is this Hunter Biden guy is not a candidate for public office and has never been so. Now, separate from this incredibly sad in many ways case about the gun application and the addiction, there is, as you're well aware, the separate case about tax avoidance, non-payment of taxes. And in that instance, there were IRS whistleblowers who came forward with really, I thought, fairly credible suggestions that there had been some kind of pressure involved initially to ease the charges. It's not clear to me that that is quite the same thing in this case relating to the gun purchase, where, yes, there was a plea deal, yes, that fell apart, now there's a trial. But I'm not convinced that in this instance there is evidence that political pressure was brought to bear to mess him.
Right. A couple of conservative commentators over the past few days have been looking at Donald Trump's case and going, he was dealing with a jury in an area where, he barely got 3 or 4 votes, biased against him in terms of being his peers. But meanwhile, the Biden family, Joe Biden, is known to be pretty popular in the state of Delaware. So will he be getting, or will his son Hunter be getting a fair trial? But, I think that this is not the right read on it.
Right.
I think if you love Joe Biden, you love Jill, you probably don't love Hunter, who causes nothing but trouble for the state of Delaware, the good people of Wilmington, and the Biden family. So I don't really see that being an issue. I think a Biden supporter on a jury would go, maybe this guy needs to go away.
So just to not let the sort of location of cases point pass, that has always seemed to me one of the most bogus arguments, and I know you weren't making it, you were distancing yourself from it, but cases are held where the alleged crimes are perceived to have taken place.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And Donald Trump has been convicted of 34 felony offences that occurred in Manhattan because they came out of his business empire. Now, where I do have common ground with you is the fact that for President Biden and for the Biden family, it's never, and I've said this numerous times through all the Hunter Biden controversies, it's never a good day for them. If Hunter Biden is in the headlines anywhere, that's a bad day for President Biden, both personally and politically. I think a lot of people can empathise with the paternal distress caused by a child who has struggled with all these things and who's now charged with a criminal offence. Politically, it just brings forth all the Hunter Biden business dealings where I think, yes, in my view, Republicans have sensationalized them in one way, but in another way, Hunter Biden was getting 50 grand a month from a Ukrainian energy company, having shown no expertise at all in Eastern European energy. And that in itself is sketchy. So I do think that Hunter Biden in the news is bad for President Biden, even though I think some of the specific arguments made against him are kind of bogus.
No, I completely agree with you about the tragedy that we're looking at here. It's an incredibly sad story, and I am a voter who was always drawn to the empathetic stories of Joe Biden. Just, one disaster for his family after another, from losing a wife and children in a car crash to dealing with Hunter Biden and being completely stalwart in his support of him. It's actually stunning because if you listen to Republican narratives on the Biden family, they talk about them, the Biden crime family, right? And they talk about them as if there's some sort of mafia members. Well, mafia members throw people under the bus.
Right.
They haven't thrown Hunter under the bus.
Right.
They've stood by him through and through. And so at some point you have to go, somebody's lying to me about, the character of the Bidens. I think it's incredibly heartwarming that they will always stand by their son, but, justice has to do its thing. It has to be blind.
I agree with that point. And I do think actually in terms of the familial love, that is very admirable in many, many ways. I do think there's not to break everything down to politics, but I do think there's a political concern among, let's say, allies of the White House that because the president is so understandably protective of his family that he would say something impolitic or imprudent in defence of his son. Hasn't happened yet in this trial, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, the way politics works is if Biden is defending Hunter, so too do congressional Democrats. They end up falling and having to make statements in support as well. And I don't think any of them want to be doing it.
And do you think the timing of this trial is, obviously we're at the sort of, the campaign is underway, but people are not, undecided voters probably don't tune in until about Labour Day of presidential campaigns. Do you think that this trial in and of itself has a bearing on the election?
I don't think that the trial has any bearing on the election. I think the outcome itself will, because those are going to be the ads that run from now until the end of the year. Everything that's happening right now, from Donald Trump and his response to his conviction in Manhattan to what happens with Hunter, these are the makings of the summer and fall ads. So we'll see. We will.
And it's also, I guess this will be, well, it's clearly going to be one of two potential trials for Hunter Biden. We should perhaps mention, just as a factual issue, it appears, for good or for bad, that Mr. Trump's conviction in New York will be the only of the 4 trials he faces that we expect to go to trial before the election. So that could have a bearing too.
Absolutely.
We shall have more Rising after this. Stick around.